we're now going to switch gears and turn to a conversation about food access and affordability. So please join me in welcoming Stephen Jennings, brand lead for health and sustainability at Ahold Delhaize USA. Give him a round of applause, please. And Bernie Pollock, wherever you are, my co-founder, my dear friend, could you get me a glass of water? Stephen, so nice to see you. Welcome to Utah.
Good to see you. I literally just landed.
You did? Thank you for being here. I hope you weren't delayed by the terrible East Coast weather.
No, after the cancellation last night, we were good this morning.
I'm so glad.
Yeah,
I'm relieved.
Yeah.
So we're going to just dive right in. I'm not going to give you a chance to rest. I want to start with a kind of complex question, so just bear with me because I have to read it a little bit. We are seeing increasing interest and sort of a desire among consumers to buy products that are better for themselves and better for the planet. But at the same time, there's huge economic uncertainty, and eaters are being forced to cut costs, on what they eat daily, what they buy weekly at the grocery store. So I'm wondering how you see these sort of different forces colliding when they're actually in the grocery store and what shoppers are actually buying.
Yeah, so real quick, is anyone from the East Coast by chance? Oh, okay, great. Well, then you may know some of our great brands. So it's Hannaford, Stop and Shop, the Giant Company, Giant Food, and Food Lion. So anywhere from Maine to Georgia over to Tennessee, most likely you've been in one of our stores. And Dani, it's a great question. So it's something it's only accelerated since pandemic especially, but it's always something that's been very important, and we have to wait. We're a business, right? So we're not a nonprofit.
Right.
We need to sell things.
Right.
But we recognize as the largest East Coast grocery retailer that we have the responsibility to nudge, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, nudge our customers and associates to better for you choices. But what does that mean? What is better for you? So there's a clear expectation that fresh fruit and veg is the way to go. As a business, we want to sell more fresh fruit and veg because that's good profit for our business, right? But the accessibility and the affordability issue crops up more and more, right? So we cover, not everyone has unlimited funds in their pockets, right? So we do a lot with low food access areas and folks on fixed incomes. So how do we balance those things?
Yeah.
So one of the things is through, and I know this sounds maybe silly on the surface, but it's a lot of education and awareness around perception of affordability. There's the obvious sticker price, right? We know that. But when we're not familiar, I heard some of these cultural things up here on the stage about food and how important they are to family. But if someone's like, you should eat more eggplant, and if you don't know how to prepare it, and you have this much money to spend, and you don't know if your kids are going to like that eggplant, odds are you're going to skip over that for the thing that might be in a box that costs a little less because I know the kids are going to eat it. So there's a lot of things we do behind the scenes at a local level at our brands to educate and awareness around what can you do with that food, how can you maximize the usage of the food that you're purchasing to get more value. So not just the sticker price.
Right.
And I know it seems like a silly little thing, but it actually is a big deal because I'm not really a cook. I know what I can cook from what my mom taught me, which is spaghetti, a little chicken here and there, a little ramen noodle. But I learned through these quick little wins about how to maximize not only food waste and repurposing, but that's where I get the value. And when we have 30 million customers a week, it's a little tough to get to everybody.
Right. Yeah. What are the things that you as a retailer see are most effective, though, in store? Is it signage? Is it having a chef in the store to sort of demonstrate these things that they are easy if you have the right tools?
So we've done a variety of all of those things. We've had brands that have actually had chefs in stores, cooking meals. We have in-store registered dietitians in some of our stores. But remember, 30 million customers a week. So a handful of registered dietitians cannot possibly get to 30 million customers a week. So we do every avenue. So it's everything from online, digital, podcasts, a lot of which our brands host at a local level.
Yeah.
So the sign thing, my grocery partners will probably shoot me for saying this, but does anyone read signs in a store? maybe the price tag, right? But do you read all these big, beautiful signs that we literally spend millions of dollars putting in the stores? You do? Oh, good for you. Come to our stores. So as a whole, most people are not out there reading every single sign. But we also, unfortunately, inundate you with too much information. So it becomes a little bit overwhelming. So we try to get you on your phone and on the mobile apps, and we try to meet you where you are. So it's everything from the old school circular that still goes into the mail, or you can get into your newspaper, all the way to digital ads on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
every which way.
it's everywhere, but and you have to have a multi-pronged approach, because think about it. We have everyone from, we have a 1-month-old shopping in our store with their parent, all the way up to, someone that's 100 years old that's still coming in the store because it's their social moment. So we have to cover all of those spectrums for everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot to cover. I understand that. One thing that interests me that I think confuses a lot of those folks, whether they're 1 month old or 100 years old that come into your store, is eco labels. And I'm a big fan of these, but I'm a foodie nerd, and I have the luxury of being able to understand them and read them. And I'm wondering how you think, non-GMO, animal welfare, organic, et cetera, how that influences your customers, and do they understand them well enough to make the decisions that, maybe people like me want them to make?
Yeah, well, the ones you mentioned are good examples, because unfortunately what ends up happening over a period of time is they kind of become marketing tools to convince you to buy something. So like gluten-free is a really good example. So if anyone's ever looked at some of the nutrition facts on the back of things that label gluten-free, they're not that good for you. They're usually high in sodium. That's usually the culprit right there. And that's a lot of driver of a lot of diet-related chronic disease in this country. So just be very careful about trends and certain labels. You have to read the back of the nutrition facts. So one of the things that we provide in our store is nutritional guidance based off third-party scientific advisory panel, follows FDA regulations. It's called Guiding Stars. And it's a simple method to shop our stores by we say shop for the stars, because what it is, it's a simple algorithm. I say simple, but it's of course complicated. And basically the nutrition facts on the back of those panels that sometimes we can't read some of those words, which you might want to steer clear of some of those things, by the way. We use that as a simple debit and credit system of, if it has extra vitamins and minerals, you earn points. But if it has added sugar, added sodium, high in saturated fats, you lose points. So when it debits positive, that's when we say it starts to get good. So you can earn 1, 2, or 3 stars, and it's based on positive reinforcement. Because there's one thing Americans do not like, Dani, and it's to be told what to do and buy.
They don't like to be shamed.
No, exactly. And we are not in the business to shame, because, again, we want to sell everything, but we want to nudge you to the better for you choices, because it's the right thing to do for your overall wellness, right? So it's a positive incentive. And some of our brands actually financially reward for buying more.
Right.
Some of them, we reward our associates for buying more Guiding Stars rated products. Right. But conversely, when you don't earn a star, you don't see a skull and bone on the product, like, don't buy this, poison. Because, again, more likely you are to pick it up just because of that.
Right.
Yep.
You talked about overall wellness, and what I'm seeing is a greater interest among eaters, consumers, and also the private sector is taking a huge interest in the food as medicine sort of movement. And I'm wondering if you can talk about some of the opportunities for retailers in this space to do it effectively. And I mean this in the best way, but to do it truly, to not use it as a marketing scheme or something that, confuses consumers more or misleads them.
So you have to start with transparency. So I mentioned the nutrition guidance. So what we've done it's been about 1.5 years, we've been behind the scenes working on what we call our health approach, because we want to be a partner as a grocery retailer. We want to be your partner in healthier living choices. And that's the key word, choices. Because you need to make the decision what to purchase and what's good for you, what's good for your family, and for your wellness journey. Because again, remember, I still eat ramen noodles. I'm not giving up my ramen noodles. but I add a bag of peas to that. So see, that's how I do it, by just adding little things here and there. So taking that concept, it's how do we continue to nudge? Some of it's through the education we mentioned, right? But we wanted to kind of start formalizing our approach because it's really important to us. And selfishly, it's actually really good for business. Because guess what? More and more of our customers are telling us, I want better for you choices, but I want it at an affordable price, and I want it available in all of your stores, not just in the ones that you think have more money to spend.
Right.
It should be accessible to all.
Yeah.
So what we've kind of formalized around the context of food as medicine, because that could be a little polarizing depending on who you're talking to. There's little people fighting on each side about the meaning of that. But we can't argue that consuming more fruits and vegetables is going to be better for you, right? It's going to be better for your outcome. So we've kind of developed this approach that we call food care. And it's around two things that we know and love. It's food and it's people. So we call it food care. We feel that's soft. It resonates not only internally but externally. And we have 3 areas of focus. So I mentioned the guiding. Like, to continue to help educate our consumers, we need to guide them. So I mentioned guiding stars. But it's also going back to rewarding and incentivizing. But the one in the middle that tends to be a little tricky, and we need a lot of help from some of our partners, is curating the right assortment. We got to find a balance. Because again, we're not going to take away the Doritos, because people still want their Doritos. Super Bowl season's coming around here. But how can we pair and elevate the other products and bring them up in your face, like the sodas of the world, right? And the chips of the world. So we've proven through kind of test and learn or pilots in brands that if we put better for you products in your face, literally sometimes, guess what? You tend to pick it up a little bit more. So we tend to sell a little bit more. So that's where we start kind of that internal studying of. But you have the power to influence this, and it's your purchase. It's literally your vote. When you choose not to buy more broccoli, over time, you're going to start seeing less broccoli in the store. When you decide to buy more broccoli, you're going to see a lot of broccoli in your store. And the same goes throughout the entire footprint of the store. Your purchase power is paramount in our decisions. Your demand is what drives what we put on the shelf. So keep that in mind as well. And then the final thing is around nutrition equity and champion health equity and nutrition security. So we call it our Nourish pillar. And you know, that's, if you will, the feel good, because everyone has the right to healthy food. Everyone has the right to that. So part of that pillar is champion that work locally. But remember, because of our size, we need scalable solutions. And this is where we need partners like, like Food Tank and others that will help us on the journey to not only get our voices out there about we need everyone's help here, and but this is also where we partner with healthcare providers, other nonprofits in the space, because together, guess what? We can bring food to the masses and healthy food to the masses.
Yes, of course. The sort of last thing I want to talk about is how Ahold Delhaize has been nudging with legislation. And I know nudging has been your theme throughout this conversation. And one important piece of legislation that passed last year is the Food Donation Improvement Act. And can you talk about why, as a private sector company, food loss and food waste are so important for you to prevent?
Yep. So again, in the spirit of transparency, there's also a business case behind increasing food donations and reducing food loss. So I'm sure it's no surprise, 75% of all product or stuff in a landfill is food. It's food waste. So obviously, as a grocery industry, you know, we contribute to that as well. And we've made public commitments that by 2025, that we will be 90% or zero waste by 90, or which is 90% food waste diversion by 2025. That's really hard because we have 200,000 associates that have to make the right decision every single day. And if you're working on a front line, you got 10 customers in front of you and the trash can's right there, it's really easy just to go doink. But in essence, in our stores, we should never find food in a trash can. because we have passed for everything. And this, I promise I'm leading to the food donations. But it starts with, you got to have a process, it starts with procedures at the store level, but it also starts with answering, like, why are we doing this? So at a financial level, we're doing it because eliminating food waste in our stores saves us literally millions of dollars in fees. Big bucks that, guess what? We can reinvest back in pricing and lower those costs, right? So that's one benefit from a business side. But from the human side, we should be donating food to people, not to the landfill. So we have some of our brands have been on this journey for many years, 10 plus years, and over 40% of their food waste is being donated, or say food recovery is being donated directly to people. And just imagine, not so distant past, 0. So 40%, we're talking millions of tons a year donated directly to people in the communities that our stores operate. But the but to that is we can always improve with healthier food donations. So we made a general rule across the board with our food bank partners in Feeding America to not be donating sugary beverages, to not be donating chips. It should be wholesome, nutritious food, and a primary focus on fresh, which tends to be produce, some dairy products, etc. So that was really important.
Yeah.
But to the legislation, so typically in our space, we don't typically kind of go out there and promote different things just for a variety of reasons that I can't talk about here on stage.
Sure.
But this one was near and dear. Yeah, this one was near and dear to us about increasing the protections around increasing donations of food, up to and including even potentially liquid dairy, because liquid dairy could be scary. The dates on there don't last so far, right? And you can't tell everyone about the smell test and just making your own decision around that, right? So we wanted some additional protections there. And guess what? Once we did that, we worked behind the scenes with CSPI. So
Center for Science in the Public Interest.
Yes. And in order to get our voices heard as a retailer about how we want to increase these donations, but we want some limited protections behind the scenes. And guess what? Our donations shot up again through the roof. So that means more fresh products in the hands of people in need every day in our community. So
thank you so much, Stephen. I think the private sector definitely has a role here, and it needs to be elevated. Thank you so much for this work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Thank you.